So this project is not actually about community and me. It's about community as me and what we can learn about a community by looking at an individual. By drawing an analogy between the individual and the community, I'll look at myself as a product of the relationships I've built and connect them with the communities that necessarily exist within a broader community. It's my hope to show that the two are one and the same, that instead of titling this video Community and Me, I could have simply called it Community. We each face the same fundamental choices on development. We each periodically are confronted with crises of identities brought on by our internal contradictions. And we each can choose to confront the contradictions head-on or numb ourselves to their existence. With that, let me introduce you to a few of the communities within my community. Seeing Napoleon for the first time in Jena after the Prussian conquest, recalled Hegel, was like seeing world history on horseback. The faces you now see are my history on horseback. Each represents a fundamentally different aspect of my personality, my accomplishments, and my perspective. As isolated individuals, they wouldn't tell you much about who I am as a person, but engaged as they are in a dialectical process within myself, just as you are seeing them on the screen, they together have catapulted my development. There's the alumni who helped me stay motivated as I trained for the Philadelphia Marathon, and my roommate who had discussed with me his neurobiology homework over pints of Ben & Jerry's. There's my student government advisor whose quizzical glance of doubt propels me to excel beyond academics, and the friend who was stranded with me in Panama after our flight experienced engine failure over Central America. And there's the foreign exchange student from Paris who lent me his apartment for 2 weeks while I did research for my thesis. In order for my development, or for a community's development, it is not enough to simply have various and interesting communities within a community. Martin Buber, Vandava Shiva, and various other authors we've read this semester might argue that it's impossible for these elements to exist as distinct entities, not communicating as if in a salad bowl rather than a melting pot. When looking at the College Hall in comparison to the Frank Furness Library, we see the possibility of dialogue but not the necessity of it. The Furness Library embodies what Thomas Paine suggested ought to be the first object of reform legislation, preserving the benefits of civilized life while remedying its evils. In amalgamating several architectural currents into a cohesive unity, the Furness Library achieves this. It also achieves a dialogue with itself and its parts. It becomes apparent when looking at College Hall that while it may have the same core structure of stone and mortar as Furness, it is not engaged in a similar dialogue. College Hall could be seen as the nude form, while the Furness Library could be seen as the naked form. But how does this relate to community, and more importantly, to development? The process that gives movement to a person, a building, or a community is a process by which conflicting parts are connected and resolved into a greater whole. It is only through these interactions that we will ever be able to accept or deny Fukuyama's assertion that we've reached the end of history. These communities within greater communities are like individuals that consist of myself as an individual. If given the opportunity to express their views and opinions in a participatory manner, they have the capacity to further assist the development of a community by expressing the full range of choices available. And this is where the distinction is made between development and growth. Development is not a process by which the status quo is maintained, but it is instead a holistic change in a community's ability to act and innovate. Development, unlike growth, does not simply emphasize economic statistics such as GNP, housing prices, and trading volumes, but seeks to encompass all aspects that feed into changing a community's economic situation. On an individual level, it's the difference between an obsession over one's GPA or a genuine attempt at expanding one's intellectual horizons. Like an individual who tries on various personas and experiments with different lifestyles, communities are prone to the same overexuberances as the rest of us. These range from the postmodern obsession with the sleekness of glass to the unfortunate embrace of raw concrete as a canvas of expression. These experiments are not always constructive. Sometimes development results in the demolition of buildings which are left to grow over with small brush and weeds. These buildings represent the external aspects of a community's development. They are the teenage photos that one wishes his mom would throw away. The other, more subtle change that this process of development engenders is a change in the consciousness of those that live in relation to these buildings. If the material world is founded upon the ideological world, then the construction of a neighborhood coffee shop speaks to the acceptance of a community of the very real and very mundane needs of its residents. One must acknowledge that a coffee shop where neighbors mingle after picking up their kids from school is just as important as a corrugated slate-colored building of student residences. The latter might get more attention, both positive and negative, but both have their place in a community and individual's need to discover itself.